Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's story. Today is Tuesday. It's normally Octa Day. Octa has become really big, so I'm going to do Octa tomorrow. So stay tight for that. But this is something that I do want to talk about. And I was going to call this video manipulation, but I don't do clickbait titles. So I resorted to calling it equilibrium because that's a lot of kind of what I see right now. But when markets are in equilibrium, it shows a state of balance, no immediate pressure to go up or down, but we'll look at some of the dynamics that are happening behind the scenes, as well as some stuff we need to dig into. So let's go. Thank you as well to the moderators in the chat. And this is not financial advice, and my microphone is too low. Hopefully it's better now. Okay. And of course, to Patreon. Thank you all. Thank you, Leroy Jenkins. Just joined the Patreon party. Thank you, Leroy, for being part of the team. Let's go and welcome to what people now call the best Bitcoin show on earth. Let's get into the Bitcoin news first. Some very good breaking news. First of all, fear and greed is rebounding a little bit. It went down to 26. Now it's at 48. We're making it happen. Thank you, Linda and Nick. Linda in USA and Nick in Canada. I love seeing people from all over the world. But there's more. A lot more. 11 years ago, this is a fun piece of history from Rizzo. Exactly 11 years ago today, Bitcoin was added to the Oxford English Dictionary, and the definition was a system of electronic money without the need for a central bank. Pretty crude definition, but it works. It works for me, and well done. It's amazing to think that it was around for 14 years, over 14 years, and it took over 3 years before the term Bitcoin got added to the dictionary. So, like everything in life, sometimes things are a little bit slow. Also, other great news for us. Bitcoin options are incoming. Nasdaq seeks SEC approval for Bitcoin index options. Now, why is this important? Well, these options, of course, they'll probably be based on CME real-time index, but providing real-time pricing data for Bitcoin futures and options contracts on the CME's platform will help Bitcoin because the introduction of Bitcoin index options will enhance liquidity and provide new hedging tools for traders like myself. And this move is expected to attract more institutional and retail investors by offering sophisticated risk management tools. Yes, thereby helping the maturation of the digital asset. And again, the more risk management tools are in there, the more money it attracts. And it also helps transform how investors engage with the cryptocurrency market. And especially for us who play with more, let's say, nuanced option strategies. So this is extremely good news as well, especially if it comes to hedging things like bear markets. Very exciting. I just hope they can get it out soon, and let's not wait. But there are other ways to hedge too, so don't worry too much about that. Now, last night, I did tweet this. And I normally don't look at tweets after done, but that one nearly has 250,000 views in a few hours. And I say kind of big news. BlackRock dropped nearly $250 million in Bitcoin, yet prices are down. Is the game rigged? Crypto conspiracy, Bitcoin, finance, etc. What the hell is going on? We had 2 very big ETF days in a row to the tune of nearly $500 million. And the price is down. And when I see that happening, it's like, we know a lot of the big flushes happen and the big sellers have happened. And we look at Bitcoin disappearing off exchanges. How come the price is down? And I know my audience feel the same pain. Everybody's like, what's going on here? Should we be suspicious? Well, it goes back to the same old thoughts I've had before. And, we have the technology. I have no idea. I'm going to say some pretty strong words here. No idea why ETF addresses are not shared by these ETFs. Bitwise is the only one that does it properly. And publishing Bitcoin addresses is crucial to enhance transparency and trust in this space. If they disclose their Bitcoin wallet addresses, ETF providers will allow investors and the public to verify holdings on the blockchain. And this transparency will really help us kind of align the whole ethos of what Bitcoin is. Like, I don't know why the SEC, when they approved them in the first place, didn't mandate this. Okay, we need openness, we need traceability. and it'll mitigate a lot of the concerns about fraud and rehypothecation and all that good stuff too. Bitwise, shout out to Bitwise, born in crypto, born in blockchain, is the only ETF provider known to have disclosed their addresses. And by the way, I think people need to come together and exert some pressure on these other ETF players to also have that same level of transparency. I don't know why not. And I will say this as well. If you are considering buying an ETF, buy Bitwise. Okay? Buy Bitwise. Hopefully, if everybody did that, that would force the hand of the other players too. So anyway, just thinking out loud, but BlackRock spent $500 million in Bitcoin in 2 days. What do they buy? Where is it? Where do they get it from? I mean, why is there so much cloak and dagger stuff? I don't understand. These are just alleged ideas in my small little mind. I could be completely off base, and I should not verify. I should just trust. Make sense? No, it doesn't. So anyway, moving on. Another good news too. Sorry about that. Sorry about going a little bit long on that. But I mean, why are these addresses not published? Anyway, back to others. MicroStrategy is likely going to be added, this is from Jeff, be added to the Nasdaq 100 QQQ index on December 13th, 2024. Lucky 13th, we hope. And by the way, this is the largest publicly traded Bitcoin hodler, as we know, and it could be added to the 5th largest index ETF in the world. And remember, the QQQ is only 100 names. That's how big MicroStrategy is now. And I know this could coincide with the stuff I've been talking about for quite a while too. Addition to the S&P 500. I mean, it's ranked number 300 now. So why it's not even there? Well, I do know. It's accounting rules, regulations, conformity, waiting for the S&P 500 to make a decision, and having 4 consecutive quarters of profit, which could happen if they change the accounting rules. Anyway, that's the news. Let's see if this happens. That would be bonkers for MicroStrategy into the end of the year. Let's get into some charts. And this is where I'm going to talk a lot about equilibrium and where we are right now. First of all, let's check in on our matrix. This is kind of like my little 90-day box that I put together post-halving to identify floor, roof, resistance, and see where we are today. And it'll give us a little bit of perspective. By the way, we are exactly 40 days after the 90 days or 130 days after the halving. We are about $4,000 off the floor, but sadly, we're $10,000 off the high. So we're like in the bottom third of the box right now. And it's choppy. And it's sideways. And we had a little bit of a rebound a few hours ago. We had $64,000, nearly $65,000. But we fell out of bed again. Despite a lot of money going into the ETFs, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Crazy. Let's dig into exactly what is causing this and what's going on. First of all, the net capital flows into Bitcoin have slowed. This is net capital. So this should take into account everything, the ETFs, etc. But with only a minimal profit and loss taking, the primarily among short-term holders, there is a huge portion of the supply that's transitioning right now to long-term holder status. That's the 155 days plus. And speculative interest in the perpetual swap market has also cooled, indicating reduced leverage. And historically, such periods of low activity often precede increased volatility. I call it the calm before the storm. We'll see if that happens. But despite the slowdown, the realized cap remains at an all-time high of $619 billion, driven by a $217 billion net inflow since the December 2022 low. A lot of new hands, a lot of Bitcoin changing hands at higher prices. That's why this realized cap has gone up a lot, especially when you benchmark it against, actually I need to create a new ratio, and that is the ratio of realized cap to market cap, and create that as a cool little chart. That's a good idea. Let me work on that later today. Also, investor probability has reset to an equilibrium. This suggests that the profitability has essentially reset to that equilibrium position, and that the excitement and the exuberance after the ETF launch has cooled off completely. Again, yet another sign that we are I made a tweet last week. I called it beep, but kind of the Bitcoin flatline. That's where we are. Equilibrium, flatline, lack of volatility, lack of excitement, lack of enthusiasm, lack of price action. How long can this last? I don't know. And spending is now happening at cost basis. Shout out to the Glassnode team who puts these brilliant charts together. But low values indicate most coins are being spent relatively close to their break-even cost basis. So people jump into Bitcoin and say, you know what? Hasn't done anything. I'm going to sell at the same price I paid for it and move on to something else. And this condition often signifies an exhaustion of profit and loss within the current price range and usually describes low volatility environment. Thank you so much, Yunka, for coming. So again, more equilibrium. Also, market leverage. And people always, I don't know how to say leverage. I don't know which is right. Who cares? Let me know in the comments below if you can help me pronounce it correctly. But we can also look into the ratio between the price and net liquidation volume volatility for a relative read on the market's appetite for leverage. And while we find that this ratio is declining towards levels not seen since February 2022, as indicated by that dotted line on the chart here, this means traders are less willing to take on higher risk positions, suggesting there's been a significant reset in speculative interest. So, yet another equilibrium. Boom. This good news about this, though. When this happens, it means the spot market is in control. That means those people buying spot are now back in the power seat if they step into the market, of course. We'll see. And shout out to PlanB. He also says we are in equilibrium, but from a different perspective. He looks at the Bitcoin Relative Strength Index, and you can see here we are in a very similar pattern to previous cycles, except after some dark red dots, we normally go parabolic. That hasn't happened yet. Remember, markets move in cycles. You know, bull and bear market, we're in a bull market. Greed and fear, you know, we're kind of middle of the road, almost equilibrium-like on fear and greed, just like the low and high tide. And this is, I think PlanB refers to this as human behavior that will never change. And right now, we are stuck in the middle. Again, equilibrium between greed and fear. And we just had fear, bear. So greed, bull is next per PlanB. And we'll see. This is the relative strength index. Bang in the middle. That has to go higher. And if it doesn't, this time is very different, which would be unusual. Anyway, long-term holder SOPR as well. Also, it signals an equilibrium. The selling pressure from long-term holders has decreased 3.7 times from the 69K level. A reminder, selling anything below that 1.0 mark is selling at a loss. And again, it shows you people aren't selling a loss and not a lot of selling happening too at this stage. Now, while all of this is happening, sorry about all these on-chain charts, but they tell a very interesting story. We have the highest inflow in over 1 month. Bitcoin ETFs saw a 252 million flow on Friday and another 200 plus yesterday. That's the highest in over a month. Back to back. Okay. Huge inflows, nearly $500 million. And this comes after Fed Chair Powell gave the green light for the first cut in 4.5 years. Meanwhile, Bitcoin prices are down. We did hit 64, 65K a few hours ago, but again, crypto is down despite all that good news. What's going on? I don't know. We'll see. We'll get to the ETF black hole in a minute. But before we do, this is the hash rate now. Bitcoin price action in Bitcoin and hash price. The global network hash rate has oscillated between 633 exahash and 650 exahash throughout the week. And the 7-day simple moving average is about 5% below its all-time high of 680, recorded on July 26th. So we're down a little bit, which is good too. Now, so the miners can make a little bit of bank. The higher the hash, the more the miners have to struggle and the less money they make. Anywho, let's get into some fun charts to get us all a little bit excited. It's election time all over the planet, but this is from Vivek. He says every single time Bitcoin after the election runs up. Now, it's funny because you look at these previous cycles, 2016, 2017, which many say is most similar to the current white cycle on the chart here. If that happens, we're not going to see a parabolic rise after the election until about 20 weeks to 24 weeks later, call that 5 to 6 months. That would take us maybe to March, April, May timeframe. But if we look at the 2020-2021 cycle in green, which may have some similar instances because of money printing and the amount of money printing is going to happen, it could kick in November and go nuts, absolutely nuts up until March. The question is, which framework will we look at? How will it pan out? I'm not sure. Either way, I think there's about 80 days left to the election, maybe less, 75 days. And then we put our seatbelts on. What's going to happen between now and then? I'm not sure. But basically, if you ask me, I think Bitcoin is a little bit undervalued right now. Also, from AO, Aurelian Ohion, this is, per him, the most beautiful and powerful part of Bitcoin's bull run. And it begins now to target the big swing time. And this target, if history repeats per these circles, we could go to 400,000. I don't see us going to 400,000, especially not with this level of manipulation. But we can always dream, can't we? I still remain, if we're lucky, 120K. Anything beyond that is gravy. But again, I like to sandbag stuff a lot. Let's talk about exchanges and how much is left, because the stuff is being sucked up. Where is it coming from? That's why I want transparency with the ETFs. Per Bitcoin Monger, exchange reserves hit 5-year lows. Okay. That was a couple of days ago. Guess what just happened? Yeah, someone just pulled another 46,000 Bitcoin off exchanges. And that's today. So the question is, who is pulling it off the exchanges? Could it be maybe somebody like Michael Saylor or somebody else like that? I'm not sure, but this is big. Let's check in with Marty. Marty did share this list of the continuing coverage of Bitcoin reserves. Some people call them ultra low. Coinbase is now under 1,840,000. Actually, this is a little bit hard to see, but Binance is down 44,000 Bitcoin, I think. And they had to move 30,000 from their personal cold storage to support exchange liquidity. Something is happening and something has been recently triggered. I'm going to blow up that table with the exact numbers so you can see for yourselves. And the question is, where is everything going? There's Coinbase Pro, 840,000, Binance, 564, Bitfinex, 402, and then Kraken, 134, etc. The point is the top three pretty much hold everything. And that adds up to about 2.3 million. Now, I just want to emphasize something here. Even though there's 2.3 million on exchanges, some of this could be held in custody on behalf of clients. And there could be people like you and I that maybe have a Bitcoin on an exchange. Not good advice, by the way. But if you did, odds are you don't want to sell it either. So it doesn't mean if it's on an exchange or there's stuff there on the exchanges that it's available for sale. Because odds are the majority of it is not. The question is, where is all the stuff coming from? And just as a reminder as well, Michael Saylor is going to drop $2 billion in Bitcoin. That's 33,000. And we have about 7,000 was bought by the ETFs. 7,000 in the last 7 days. 7,000 plus 33,000 is how much? 40,000 Bitcoin. That's a lot. Where's that going to come from? You know, we did see 46,000 Bitcoin just leave the exchanges. I don't know if there's a relationship between those two. I don't think so. Anyway, we've got to watch this carefully. And again, ETFs, be transparent. Share your bloody addresses. Shout out to Bitwise one more time. Now, Bitcoin Only playlist will be here after the video and at the end of the video. Let's get into the black hole and see if we see any patterns here. This is the wrong. I said 7,000 last week. It's 8,000 Bitcoin. I was wrong by nearly 1,000. Whoops. Anyway, that is a big truckload of Bitcoin that has been sucked in by the ETFs over the last 7 days, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the number flows. Sleepy August has sucked in $600 million worth. So it hasn't been that bad at all for the ETFs. Yet price remains stagnant. That's happening. Now August rebound is continuing. We had the biggest day in over a month. Actually back-to-back big days too. Over $250 million on Friday. Another 203 million yesterday. Nice numbers. But price still sucks. Tomorrow, I will update my chart that shows you the actual price correlation and calculate it between the actual ETF flows and Bitcoin price, because it is broken down. And I don't know why. Unless they're sitting on cash and waiting for the price to completely tank, or market makers are manipulating something. I'm not sure, but something funky is going on. And I don't know why. Also, this is how many Bitcoin were taken from the system yesterday. 3,222. You cannot make that number up. And that's on top of 4,000 from the day before. Again, interesting time. Nearly 8 times the daily issuance. Crazy to think about. And wouldn't be a proper Bitcoin video without a mention of Grayscale. Have they bled out? Well, per this little chart that we created, the bleed has surely slowed a lot. They had the odd big day. They had that really big day about 2 weeks ago. But since then, it's either flat or zero or slightly positive. So a lot of the big dump that came from the Grayscale train, I believe, is now over. Thank goodness. Fingers crossed, just in case. Hope you all like the show. Hit the like and subscribe if you do. If you like Bitcoin content. And let's try to get to the bottom of what's exactly going on with the price and the ETFs and everybody else. Thank you, TNT Tesla, Sean Donnelly, and everybody else for coming. Have a good day. Bye-bye.